One of the most exciting things about Pokemon is evolution. Getting to see what your little creature turns into after enough experience together, it's always a fun time. Of course, every Pokemon is unique. Some can evolve twice, some can evolve only once, and some don't evolve at all. That last one is usually reserved for legendary Pokemon, but there are exceptions to every rule, such as Cosmog, which evolves into Cosmoem and then either of Solgaleo or Lunala, depending on the version of Sun and Moon it's from. And not to mention the surprising number of non-legendaries like Tropius. Oh Arceus, why aren't you better? Hell, some Pokemon can go even further beyond through Mega Evolution introduced in Generation 6 and then was dropped until Generation 10, where it's returning in Pokemon Legends ZA. Please, I'm begging! Evolution's not everything at the end of the day. Some people can make great use of unevolved Pokemon through strategies, namely one that uses the Eevee-like held item, which boosts both defensive stats of Pokemon that can still evolve. The one that always comes to mind for that strat is Vigoroth, but sometimes it's just a case of people liking the Pokemon for how they already are. And yeah, I get that. I mean, I love Torterra, it's one of my favourite Pokemon of all time, but Turtwig is such a silly little guy, it's hard not to love it. There is one Pokemon that's always in the conversation for evolutions, however, and that's because evolution is his whole personality. Eevee. This cute little fox cat thing, I still don't know, can be argued to be the mascot of evolution in Pokemon, as well as the secondary mascot of the series besides Pikachu. Ever since Eevee was introduced in Generation 1, it's always been unique because it can evolve into multiple things. In fact, that's why the phrase Eeveelution was coined, as a pun on evolution to refer to all the different forms of Eevee. That's right, you get to choose what you can evolve Eevee into through a number of different methods, which we will cover, and this is because, in the series lore anyway, it has an unstable genetic code, meaning unlike other Pokemon, it doesn't have a set evolution line. And honestly, I can only really see this working with Eevee at this point. Like, imagine a world where Clefairy evolved into Gengar. Now see, it's funny but yes, Eevee is a very popular Pokemon for the reason that it's so unique in its number of evolutions, and all for good reason too, because all these little guys are great in their own way. First off, they all retain that cute mascot energy that Eevee has in spades. Maybe we can argue that some are cute than others. I personally think that Sylveon is the cutest Eeveelution, but in some ways it's like comparing this diamond to that diamond, because at the end of the day, it's Night. Everyone has their favourite, of course, and so do I, but I don't want to just say my favourite and move on. I need the watch time, so I'm going to keep you for a few more minutes. The popularity of these little guys is immense, but some are definitely liked more than others. The two particular Eeveelutions I haven't seen much love of, at least when compared to the rest, have to be the two that was introduced in Generation 4 games, Diamond and Pearl, Leafeon and Glaceon. To get these, you have to level up Eevee near either the Moss Rock for Leafeon, located in Eternal Forest, or the Ice Rock for Glaceon, located on Route 217, up the very north of the region. Now, you might already see a problem here if you're familiar with the Gen 4 games. While Leafeon is actually reasonable to obtain, with Eternal Forest being passed through before the second gym challenge, and to be fair, you don't normally have access to Eevee before then, but Glaceon is unreasonable. In all fairness, again, the earliest you can get an Eevee in Diamond and Pearl is catching one in the Trophy Garden on Route 212, which is after the 4th gym challenge, while you can talk to Eevee in Hearthome City in Platinum version before the 3rd gym challenge to get one via a gift. Here's the thing though, Route 217 is the route you go through in order to reach the 7th gym challenge, and no offense to Glaceon, it's definitely got something going on with these stats here, but that might be a little late for some in terms of their team composition, and holding a weak Eevee around for that long is definitely going to put you at a disadvantage. It's kind of weird, these two have been notoriously hard to get, especially Glaceon, because of their respective rocks locations either being late game or even post game for both in Black and White 2's case, and it's only recently where they've been infinitely more reasonable to obtain, now they use either Leaf Stone for Leafeon or an Ice Stone for Glaceon instead. Don't get me wrong, I do like these two, but there's a reason I've never used either of these two on my teams throughout the years. Credit where credit is due though, I do really like Leafeon's battle cry. I think it sounds very magical forest spirit-esque, and that's super cool. And Glaceon can be potent in the right situations, like with Ice Beam or Blizzard, and it's fairly solid defenses to help it take hits from one of its many weaknesses. But let's be real, it's probably not going to do anything to Cynthia's roided up Garchomp holding a Yachi Berry that weakens the first Ice type attack it's hit by in BDSP. Leafeon has actually never explained his favourite Eevee evolution, so credit to him for liking arguably one of the more unpopular ones. Good on you, man. For the most recent Eeveelution, introduced in Generation 6, yes, that means we're over a decade now without a new Eeveelution. Fingers crossed for a Dragon type Eeveelution in Pokemon Legends ZA or a Rock type one, that could be cool too. It's Sylveon. Hands down, I think it's easy to put 2 and 2 together to realise that we only got a new Eeveelution. That's actually really hard to say really quickly like that. I've already messed up a few times though. In Generation 6 was to push the new fairy typing. Not a bad idea, mind you, considering new Eeveelutions have always been something people look forward to and it may be happening. And so giving one for the brand new exciting type just kind of makes sense, and yeah, Sylveon's great. I don't exactly remember if I used the Sylveon in either of my 2 X or Y playthroughs back in the day, but I would like to say I did because it seems like something I still relatively new Pokemon fan me would do. Maybe. I don't know. Perhaps I was experimenting with other Pokemon instead. I know my original team has a Chestnut, an Event Blaziken with Speed Boost, Charizard because of its X Mega Evolution, the Lucario that's gifted you with its Mega Stone, and a Talonflame, so Whatever the last one was, probably not. God, the type overlapping, I hate past me. Anyway, but yeah, Sylveon's really neat. The fairy typing is a fun one. It's really cute with its little frills and vacant stare, I don't know what that's about. And it's sporting the trans colours. Sylveon's good for that. Trans rights are human rights and always have been. Moving all the way back to Generation 2 now, besides the original trio, well, the original quartet, I guess, Espeon and Umbreon have to be the most popular evolutions out there. Like Sylveon, they were created to push the new Psychic and Dark typings introduced in Gen 2. Nah, I'm messing with you. Psychic has existed ever since Generation 1, while a Steel type and the aforementioned Dark type were introduced in Gen 2. It begs the question why we didn't get a Steel type evolution to push the new type, but sure, whatever, I guess. Nevertheless, these two are awesome, and they hold the incredibly unique accolade of being non-traditional starter Pokemon. Oh, I'm sorry, first partner Pokemon. Why did they change it? What was the point? Besides Pikachu and Eevee, these two are super special in that aspect, being your starting Pokemon in Pokemon Coliseum. Sure, it's not a mainline game like Pokemon Yellow with Pikachu and the Let's Go games with Pikachu and Eevee, but it's still cool. Like, imagine for a second a game where instead of the 3 traditional starter Pokemon of the respective region, you had to choose from the same typing Eeveelutions, Leafeon, Flareon, Vaporeon. Granted, yeah, you might as well just have the original trio at that point, but I think it'd be interesting. I've neglected to mention the Eeveelution's shiny forms up to this point, but it needs to be brought up for Umbreon because even though it's a simple recoloring, sometimes less is more, and this is incredibly clean shiny because of it. I'm not a huge fan of Espeon's because it's green, and green is a very easy colour to mess up, but I think it looks pretty good in Generation 5 in particular when the lighting is just right, I feel. Generation 6 messed it up though, but what didn't Gen 6 do wrong, you know? They're both still really cool though, and they will haunt me for a long time because I own every other Eeveelution plushie except those two, and they are extremely hard to come by for a reasonable price. Credit to Alan VC for having his favourite Eeveelution be Umbreon, a base decision if I'm honest. Finally, there's the original trio of Vaporeon, Jolteon and Flareon. Fampy in the room first off, well, the first of a couple anyway. Flareon unfortunately kind of sucks. You look at it first, you might think it's pretty good. Great attack stat, a solid enough special attack stat, and pretty good special defense for protecting against water types, but its move pool is Mabba Stiff Water. At least it was anyway. Nowadays in Generation 9, Flareon has access to several other good moves that can actually make use of its great attack, like Temper Flare, doubling in power if the last move used fails, so just start out with Last Resort into Temper Flare, but in the past, it wasn't so great. But you know, the past is the past, so why keep looking back when we can hope for a better future instead? And you know, this is a pretty good future for Flareon. Not to mention its hidden ability drought, like damn. It's also apparently one of the most huggable Pokemon, and yeah, I can believe that, just look at it, it's so fluffy. Next there's Jolteon, which besides the final one, Vaporeon, is one of the Eeveelutions I've used the most. It probably sits between Espeon and Vaporeon in that regard, but that's not really important because what is how good Jolteon is. It's super fast, as expected from an electric type. Go home Vikavolt, you drunk. But it's also really powerful too, with access to the likes of Thunderbolt, Thunder and Electro Ball, which does more damage based on how much faster the user is than the opponent, which Jolteon will get great use out of, and other non-stab moves like Shadow Ball and even Rain Dance to set up for a guaranteed Thunder hit. Overall, Jolteon is incredibly versatile, I feel, and that's what makes it so fun to use all the time, even though I always fall back on the old reliable Thunderbolt. I can't really say much about Jolteon, I mainly just enjoy how much fun it is to use every time I choose to run it, but it has got that sort of lovable dog energy to it that's always appreciated. The electric typing is an incredible fit for it. And finally, there's Vaporeon, my absolute favourite evolution. Second Fampy in the room here, there's a certain cursed caveat that comes with liking Vaporeon these days, thanks to a godforsaken copypasta that should have never left the mind of anyone who even vaguely thought of it, but I'll be real, I don't care what people think, I just love the funny blue water dog thing. Again, it's one of those Pokemon I don't exactly know what it's supposed to be, but it seems to be a mix of a variety of aquatic creatures, which I feel really fits Eevee's unstable genetic code, just kind of being a combination of things, even mermaids. Granted, this applies for every Eeveelution to some extent too, but still. Vaporeon is by far the Eeveelution I've used the most. It's always a safe go-to option for me if I want a decent water type, and being able to learn moves like Surf and Waterfall make it a great HM user too, especially since those are two of the best water type moves. The convenience is appreciated, but being able to make further use of them with a solid enough stats is even better. Like most water types, Vaporeon is a bulky one, sporting a large HP stat that can help in tanking hits, helped more so by its pretty decent special defense. I may fall into the whole just spam Surf rabbit hole with Vaporeon a lot, but it has other great options too. Some of my favourites include the likes of Hydro Pump, Blizzard, Ice Beam, and even Hyper Voice for variety. Plus, it can even learn Calm Mind to make it that more bulky. Truth be told, I'm not a fan of tag-like Pokemon thanks to their typical playstyle, setting up then slowly whittling down the opponent, which Vaporeon can do to some extent with the likes of Substitute, Protect and Endure, but in all fairness, I'm not running those moves on Vaporeon anyway, I'm just hitting them as hard as I can first, but maybe some setup with Calm Mind beforehand if I think it's necessary. The moveset for me usually ends up being Surf, Water Pulse, Water Fall, and Ice Beam anyway, generally in Platinum. Sounds shallow, I ran it for a Water type, but if it works, you know, and it usually works damn well. Vaporeon happens to have a shiny form I feel is quite underrated, with this nice pink colour that I think looks particularly good in Generation 4. Not to mention a cute battle cry that sounds like it's underwater, kind of like a dolphin actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, the Eevee line is kind of like the good ending of a genetic mutation story or something. But yeah, the funny blue cute water dog mermaid thing is my favourite of the bunch, maybe to the surprise of no one who is a long-time viewer or knows me personally, and is also in my top 10 favourite Pokemon as a whole. What a precious, happy little goober it is.